Hi, it's Catherine, the author of Toriana, and I'm going to be bringing you the next chapter. Chapter 8, Toriana. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he will bring it to pass. Psalm 37, verses 4 to 5. The dry, open land spread before us, and we were all happy that we had come across the border with ease. I was sitting in the very back of the Land Rover with some of the other new team members, full of excitement for the venture we had all embarked on in the eastern Equatoria of South Sudan. Our team was from all over the world, some from America, some from Germany, a family from Kenya, an Australian, and myself, a South African. I'd covered myself with sun protection cream, and now the dust from our journey clung to my skin and my face. But this didn't bother me in the slightest, as I thought about God's amazing provision in the last year. I had a dream a few months before about living amongst the people, unreached people of South Sudan. After praying about it with my mentor, family, and my mission-sending self from my church, within 8 months, God had done the impossible and provided a way to live amongst the unreached people group in South Sudan. African Inland Mission AIM had approached me after I'd shared a testimony of some of my mission work and suggested I join their 2-year program called TIMO, Training in Ministry Outreach. After some paperwork and screening, I was accepted. I needed to raise 30,000 Rand, that was a lot in those days, it still is, to join this program. But with God, nothing is impossible, and many were led by God to support me in this new venture. My church gave me their blessing, and I was off again to a place and a people God was leading me to. My thoughts about the amazing things God had done came to a sudden halt as I realized we were approaching a large river. Some of our team vehicles, trucks, had already gone before us and simply drove through the river. I was petrified, and I clung to the seat praying. But as we hit the river, the water seemed to part. Even though it rushed just below the car windows, we made it through without an incident. The more we traveled, the more our journey involved rivers, slipping and sliding in mud, and in parts non-existent roads. For the men on the team, this was exciting and adventurous. For me, it was hard, and I needed time to get used to it. I remember in previous mission trips where I tried to be all tough, and this time I reminded myself, I must just be simply Kath. And it was normal for me, a woman from a city, to be overwhelmed by the journey and the rough terrain I now inhabited. After about 6 hours, we started driving into a mountainous region, green and lush. It was like jungle. We waved at many groups of people along our way who were working in their fields. As we drove past them, we could hear the echo of their greetings. Mung, 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 mung. The people seemed open and friendly, and I was excited to live amongst them, learn their language and their culture. The TIMO leadership team had in the last year prepared our mud houses in 6 different villages, spread across the low-pit mountains. I, together with my American teammate Jen, were to live in a village called Sohot. It was all about simple living, a long drop toilet, cold water bucket baths, no electricity, just an oil lamp each, no telephone or email. However, it was where we felt called, and it was worth it. Our first 3 months were focused on learning the language and the culture. This was a daunting task, as the low-pit language had never been written. There was no alphabet or grammar book to lead us through what we needed to learn. We had to learn by hearing and observation. It was an incredible time as we began by learning the simple greetings and then learning how to ask someone their name and vice versa. One particular morning, my neighbor, Ihuhu, called me and asked me to say my name. The more I said it, that's my name, Catherine, and the more she tried to pronounce it, the more she became convinced that I needed a new name, a low-pit name. At the time, I was wearing a flowery hat, and when she saw the hat, she said, "Toriana!" In our villages, things spread quickly by word of mouth, and everyone came to know me as Toriana, which I learnt means flower or flower of the tree. The more I lived in Sudan, the more I realized this name is true to who I am. I am a woman who loves Jesus and loves to serve. But as a woman, I'm also uniquely feminine, and I like to do my hair and make myself look attractive. My grandmother actually always told me never to go out the house with lipstick. And I had promised my grandmother that when I had become a missionary, I would do my best to look and act like a lady, taking care of my face, my hair, and my nails. To some, this may seem ridiculous, but to me it became more and more important not to just be a simple missionary, but to be a captivating one, like a beautiful flower for God's glory. So with this in mind, I continued with great faith, living as Toriana amongst the Lopit people. Part of our training was to spend 10 days living with a family in another village. I lived with Basilio, his wife Dudu, and their children. My first task was to learn how to make a fire without paper or fire lighters, or matches. After a couple of minutes, the children could see I needed their help, as I had been blowing so hard and was just making a lot of smoke, which was burning my eyes and causing me to cry. So together we put some grass on the ashes of the previous night, and they blew gently until the fire kindled and caught into the larger wood. Then the next task was walking to the river and fetching water. I was given a small 5-liter jerry can, and the young girls carried their 20-liter jerry cans on their heads. It was an exciting journey as we walked along little narrow paths under trees and through valleys. There were beautiful yellow and purple flowers along the way, and I paused a minute or two to admire God's beauty. The closer we came, I could hear the running water and the chat of the women to the left of me along the river, and the laughter of the men to the right down the river, below. They were very strict about bathing separately, and for that I was most grateful. We filled our jerry cans at the spring up the river, and then I joined the women in bathing at the river. For them it was strange to see a white naked woman, and some smaller children had never seen a white woman, so they hid behind the rocks with the little eyes peering over to see if I behaved like the other women. They knew. The other women felt more at ease to talk with me as I was doing the same activity that they were, and they felt freer to talk to me at the river than they had before. After bathing, my next task was to help weed their fields. After 2 hours, my hands were bleeding, but I was determined to continue to be part of learning the culture. Chopping wood was important in preparing for the fire, for the meal, for the day. So I attempted to level an axe above my head and chop the wood like I'd seen the women do so easily. After about an hour, my fingers had blisters, and I had only chopped a small amount of wood. My respect for the women grew each day as I realized how much they had to do. In the final days of this hectic training, I was brought a chicken that I was told I needed to learn how to slaughter. Dudu explained what I had to do as she prepared a pot of boiling water, and my task was seemingly simple. Okay, but she explained what to do, and I didn't understand the language. It was just by her actions with her hands. So, hold the chicken down, slit its neck, and put it in the boiling hot water. Easier said than done. So I mustered all my energy and emotions, and with a shaking hand managed to slit the chicken's neck and cut its head right off. There was a lot of blood, so I quickly ran and placed the chicken in the hot pot. Within seconds, the chicken, minus its head, jumped straight out the hot pot and ran wildly in circles. I took no time to hang around, and I screamed and I ran off the compound. The shrieks of laughter that came from the women and children who were watching could be heard all the way down the valley. Dudu came, called me back, and told me she would continue the job of getting the chicken ready. I was greatly relieved and sat with the children and played with them. The experience had given me new meaning to the English expression, running around like a chicken without a head. After an hour or two, we could smell the delicious chicken, and the children were excited for the meal ahead. In normal circumstances, I would have been excited too, but had to muster up the strength to eat this poor chicken that I had killed. At first it was hard, but in a few minutes I was able to enjoy the meal too. When I finally climbed under my mosquito net and into my sleeping bag on my last night with his family, I realized how different our lives are. We can simply go to the supermarket and buy a chicken, switch on the oven, spice the pre-cleaned chicken without a head, and put it in the oven. We can then take a nice clean hot shower and within a couple of hours eat a roasted chicken without much work at all. I lay thinking of all the relationships that had grown deeper in the 2 weeks because I had worked alongside the people and was learning about them and their culture. I realized how it had helped me learn a lot of their language, and it had also opened their hearts to me. I prayed that their hearts would remain open to me, for when the time came that I had enough of their language to be able to share about Jesus and what he had done on the cross for them. With that thought and prayer, I drifted into a deep sleep. The next morning, I was sad to say goodbye to this family, but very excited to be back in my mud house in my village so hot. The 2-plate gas stove, the long drop toilet, and the bucket bath using rainwater from our rainwater tank all seemed an incredible luxury. I thanked God for all of it and enjoyed soaking my feet, painting my nails, and combing my wet hair, and smelling of nice shampoo. Yes, I was living in Sudan mountains with low-pit people, living a simple life, but it was also good to spend time being me and enjoy some of all the things that made me feel like Toriana.